All right, we'll wrap this up. I know we're a little over time, so this tends to be very straightforward. So
as far as the visa requirements for entering the US for business, most European citizens are eligible to travel to the US for business purposes without having to obtain a visa. This is part of the visa waiver program. And the US has this with all European countries except Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, and Romania. So all of the other European countries, citizens are able to travel to the US for up to 90 days without having to apply for a visa. So you do have to apply for this the ESTA, or it's the Electronic System for Travel Authorization. And this allows you to stay in the US for up to 90 days. If you do expect to be in the US for over 90 days, then you can obtain a US business visa, which can allow you to stay in the country for up to 6 months at a time. There's a few different categories of visas, but for most of these European SMEs, it would most likely be a business visa. I guess since the visas are kind of the most important part of this section, I guess, is there any questions about the visa requirements?
Just maybe one point that, for instance, we have one of our members, it is a large company. They have established a US-based company in Pittsburgh. And yes, and they were claiming problems in sending their persons there to train the local employees. Because yes, they were just using the standard, ESTA with the limit of the 90 days. But I mean, for longer periods, this was, of course, not applicable. And yeah, and they didn't know how to better manage this. So yeah, if you not now, for the following days, you can yes, maybe cover this. It could be nice. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So Veronica, again, what we would suggest is that they contact a immigration attorney, and it really depends on the person, where they're coming, how long. Because they have a U.S. subsidiary, there's probably I believe it's called an L1 visa that they can apply for. But that, again, this becomes very technical, very fast. And just like any kind of immigration, it's a restriction on labor and a restriction on, are you taking a U.S. job? Okay, and every country has this situation. So the short answer to that is we're not experts in immigration, U.S. immigration law, and we would recommend that they talk to an immigration attorney.
Perfect. Thanks.
As far as some of the main air routes in the U.S., some of the big U.S. airlines that fly internationally are United Airlines, American Airlines, Delta, Alaska, Frontier, JetBlue, and Southwest. There's also an open skies agreement between the US and the EU. However, it should be noted the UK is no longer a part of the open skies agreement since they left the EU.
Right. And again, there's a lot of European airlines that fly to the U.S., Swiss Air, British Airways, BA, you name it, TAP, where Lufthansa, SAS, almost all of them have U.S. They land to major cities in the U.S., and then you'll probably transfer to one of these other airlines to get to the smaller cities.
As far as hotel accommodations, this also depends on the city that you're traveling to or that you want to stay in. But overall, in all large cities and even in most of the smaller, more rural areas, there's hotels everywhere. There's a lot of, global chains here in the US, Hilton's, Hyatt's, Marriott's that I'm sure you're all familiar with throughout Europe. Those are all throughout the US as well. Another option for staying would be Airbnb and VRBO, which have been growing in popularity recently. As far as health risks, there's no major health risks in the US outside of COVID. Overall, it's a generally safe country. There's definitely some areas that you want to avoid. But overall, as far as business travel, there'd be no major risks besides COVID, which has been getting better as of late. The current COVID travel restrictions are a proof of vaccination, and you need to have a negative PCR test 1 day before your flight to travel to the US. However, these are the travel restrictions are changing rapidly. And before traveling, I would definitely check the CDC, the US Center for Disease Control's website for the most up-to-date information. As far as emergency contacts, in the US, the emergency number is 911, which will go straight to the police dispatch number. This number is only used for emergencies, and calling it in without the case of an emergency can definitely get you in trouble. And here are some of the numbers of some of the different embassies in the US of the participating countries here.
Yeah, it should be noted 911 not only does police, but it's fire and emergency medical as well. So any emergency, I know some countries you have one number for police, one number for fire, one number for EMS. This is all 911. And then if there's a visa issue or a stay, or you get arrested, or you have an accident, car accident, or something of that nature, then of course you're working with your local consulates or your embassies to facilitate the resolution of that.
As far as transportation, once you arrive in the US, rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft are growing in popularity a lot. I would say overtaking the use of taxis, which have historically been the main way to move around within cities. Metro systems are also popular in a lot of cities, as I'm sure you are aware. However, if you're traveling long distances on train, it would be Amtrak. Otherwise, it would be by car or vehicle.